Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Product Uncensored show. I'm your host, Colin Pell, and I hope that you have been having a great week so far, right? We have to be thankful for all the things that we have, even in this, bleak time. And I also want to apologize, that I've not been able to post an episode last month because unfortunately Malaysia went back into lockdown, so there was some personal things that I needed to handle. So it was quite a busy month. But yes, I am back, and today is episode 26. If you have been following this show since episode 1, booyah, and thank you so much. Really, really thank you for following the show. But if you are new to the show, here is some information for you, right? Our videos are all available on YouTube. So obviously these are for our podcast listeners. If you want to see the video, we are on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, as usual, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button. And more importantly, also on the bell notification icon so that you will know every time we have like new content. If you are a video watcher of this show, a viewer of this show, our audio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms, and it should be somewhere here, I think, or here. I don't know. I keep getting it wrong, but yeah, and it's all on the major platforms. And the last one is that if you want to support this show, there will be a link in the description down below where you can support this show for the price of a coffee. And of course, all this is voluntary, and if you don't, that's fine as well. All right, that's all the introduction that I needed to do. Let's get to the guests and not guests. Let's go, right? So our guest today is from Indonesia, and I'm excited because it has been a while since I had a guest based out of Indonesia. And he is the current head of product for one of the fastest growing startups in the Indonesian micro SME fintech scene, BukuWarung, who has just raised, I think, 60 million in their recent Series A round. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Mario Nicolas. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Hi, Colin. Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I was actually very excited when you told me. Yes, I'll tell you a little story before we start, right? I've actually been following BukuWarung for a while now because one of your co-founders, Chinmay, is actually a former product manager himself. I'm sure you know. And I've been trying to get him on the show, but he's been super busy, and I've always wanted to learn a little bit more about the BukuWarung story and also how product practices are done. So when I came across your name, I was like, yes, I really need to reach out to Mario and get him on the show. And I'm super excited. And also, if you do talk to Chinmay, tell him I'm still interested to have him on the show because I would love to tell the story of the product manager who went to become a co-founder. But yeah, so I'm super excited that I finally got you on the show as well. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, right? Because the story of BukuWarung itself is, I think, one of a kind. I mean, we are one of the pioneer when it comes to this new breed of product, which is bookkeeping, right? Digital bookkeeping. I mean, prior to BukuWarung time, there's no such thing as digital bookkeeping, right? I mean, there's not many startup or digital product that targeting this micro segment. Usually they target, a little bit above this micro segment, medium, small business, but micro business, like we are the first. So like everyone is like super curious, what's going on and the story of this amazing growth. And Chinmay himself, like he becomes a guest in some podcast shows already. Like people really want to know the story. So I think it's interesting because we're working in the inside, putting our heads down, serving the customers, and sometimes we forget about what's going on out there. And actually, people put all their eyes into this space, and they want to know, like they want to learn. So it's just interesting to know that like people like you actually want to learn about what we are doing.
Yeah, and I guess for us as well, for me specifically, there's also an added motivation because I always try, if I can, to focus on products and product leaders from within the region. So BukuWarung's success has always been something that I know would be. I know a lot of our listeners and viewers would be keen to hear as well. So yeah, definitely going to jump into BukuWarung and everything good about that. But let's start with you, right? Because I think within the region, there are so many leaders, and I think we need to always give like a proper introduction. So yeah, why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself and maybe even how you got into product management.
Okay, so I think this is, I don't know whether it's interesting or not, but I'm not coming from a tech background at all. I studied law in university. Yes. But I think during you and me about the same age. If I have to guess, maybe your early 30s, late 20s. I think back then when we're still in university, there's no such thing as tech space, right? Yahoo is the only like the biggest internet company back then. There's no smartphone. There's only BlackBerry. When I first, when I graduate, I become a lawyer. Back then, I still remember especially in the region, right, Southeast Asia, BlackBerry is only owned by maybe around 10-20% of population. The rest still on their Nokia phone. And the only technology solution back then is this SMS quizzes, your Nokia background and ringtone, right? It's not very interesting back then. But what's more like becoming a lawyer, right? I decided that it's not for me. So one thing about law that it's very, very obvious, everybody knows, it's law, right? It's something very rigid. It's not supposed to be dynamic, right? It's supposed to be an ancient rule that people have to follow. And I realized this 4 months into work. In my office desk, there's only 3 books. One from the 70s, one from the 80s, one from the 90s. Right? There's 3. I became a maritime lawyer back then, and there's only one law that rule all the maritime world in the world, like in the whole planet. So every day coming to the office, reading the same book, nothing changed since the 70s. So after 4 months, I decided to quit. And then it's about like the same time as this, smartphone revolution, and it's becoming like extremely exciting, right? The first time they introduced iPhone to the world, the first time they introduced Android in the world. Like previously, phones are half screen, half keypad, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's like full screen. Everything's
touch
moving.
Screen, yeah.
Touch screen, like the background is moving. So many apps, things you can do. So the possibility is endless, and I decided, there's no one expert about this, right? Even the industry expert back then is like the telco expert, right? We have Telkomsel. We have like the biggest company that is somewhat tech is Telkomsel, like in the biggest telco. And they really focus on, they, even them, they don't understand smartphone. They don't understand this, Angry Birds, right? Angry Birds was such a revolution. Angry Birds, what else? Candy Crush. So people don't understand, people want to learn. And for me, it's a fair game because there's no expert. So I can go into this space, right? I can go in, learn everything from zero. And there's so many like free sources on the internet. Back then, if you want to learn about tech, you have to, there's not many resources because product manager is, this profession is non-existent, right? Tech product manager is non-existent 10 years ago. The only available sources if you want to learn about tech is how to build a website, right? So that's where I started. So how to build a website, and then you start understand that you can actually introduce a video in your website. So then you learn how to do video streaming. Or you can introduce like a gaming element in the website. So you learn how to make like this gamification efficient for the users. So started from there, and then I think I decided to stop working. I resigned. I do freelance, helping this new startup. Back then, there's no startup. Like, it's just a new company. We call it
Yeah.
it's a
Back
new
then,
company.
this company.
Yeah, yeah. This company started by the small company started by a local conglomerate here in Jakarta. They just want to build app for BlackBerry. That's the main because BlackBerry is a thing. Everyone wants to have an app, right?
Yeah, I
Restaurant,
think
they want to have an app.
in Indonesia especially, right? BlackBerry, one of
Yeah.
the biggest markets for BlackBerry at that time, outside of their major markets of the US and Europe, was actually Indonesia, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yes, for the wrong reason. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They market BlackBerry for the security, enterprise, security, safety, right? So if you're an employee, all your account is inside your device, your email, your calendar, and everything, right?
Yep.
So BlackBerry become big in Indonesia because of the messenger.
Yes.
So no one care about the email, no one cares about security. They want to buy BlackBerry because of the messenger. That's it.
Yes. BlackBerry Messenger. Yes, I still remember.
Yeah.
Encrypted end to end. Yeah.
So no one care. They actually, like how Indonesian people, they don't care about privacy.
Yeah.
Encrypted end to end, right? That's the tagline. But what they do is they copy paste their BlackBerry pin and they post it on Facebook publicly, right? At me. Yeah. So it's funny, right? Because that's the first sign that when you create a technology, when you create a product, it really depends on the user, right? How you want to build it's like how you might be familiar to this. People build knife to cut meat, right?
Yes.
But most people use it to stab other people or other reasons. So that's how unique this space is. You create a product for safety and for corporate, but then people use it for messenger. And this is very interesting because I think back then, Research in Motion, which is the company that owned the BlackBerry brand, they insist on that message, right? They insist on security, enterprise, corporate. So when they enter the country, when they enter Indonesia, that's the message that they're bringing. They try to secure like enterprise client for 3 years, and people really don't buy that. They go they go to this this electronic malls buying black market devices just for the BlackBerry Messenger, and people people from like their own partner, right? They're telling guys, stop doing this. Stop selling this as enterprise solution. Just sell it for the market. It took them 4 years to understand.
Wow.
Yeah. So after year 4, they give up and then they say, here's the messenger for you. Yeah. But I think that's also a great learning, right? Because this is where I see. I think around that year, like 2008 to 2011, like prior to 2008, right? Whatever come from the Western region, the US, the Europe, they come as is, and they market the same way as they market it in the US and the Europe, right? You remember all these Nokia phones? Every month there's like new device and everything, and they market as is. But during that time is the revolution of Southeast Asia, right? When people start realizing that the market needs, the cultural differences is playing a big role in how a digital product get accepted in the region. Before that time, right? All these big companies, Microsoft, Yahoo, Oracle, right? When they hire local people, they usually go for the people who graduated from university in the US or somewhere in Europe, right? They try to find people who match with the headquarter culture, who do well in the interview in terms of English and everything. But that strategy doesn't work anymore. So during this digital revolution era, there are some big tech players, app, right? This modern app coming to the region and try to find these people who study in the US and everything. And I have to say, I know some of them personally. I know these companies. I have to say, those companies didn't do as well as other company who recruit like hyper local people, right? People who know the situation on the ground, people who can walk to the small alley, talk to the small people, and understand what they need, what do they want, and everything. So this is where I think I'm very lucky because I was there. have first experience observing this real time, I see like people coming back from the US work for the giant companies, and then because of this digital revolution, right? They want their app to be used by everyone in Indonesia, and they have zero idea about how things working in Indonesia because they just returned from the US after 4 years, right?
Yep.
Come back to the country, they don't understand, and I mean we're in the region like Indonesia is a huge country. We have like hundreds of cities. Every cities they have their local dialect, local culture, like different behavior. So things that work in Jakarta doesn't mean that it will work, in Bali or in Medan or in other city in Jogja. So that takes a local understanding on how to build. So this is again like I'm very lucky because I know what's going on. I understand the needs of the market. I understand how this company using the wrong strategy to enter the market. So I take the opportunity to actually jump to the space and help make them understand. So it all happened by my career of becoming product manager all happened by an accident. So after that website gig, right? So I helped this company, I helped them design website, and then because of this, I got exposure. Someone from the one of the biggest media company in Indonesia, they're looking for people who understand, right? Because they don't understand, and for media company, it's worse because it's eating them up, right? So previously, like newspaper, magazine, they're selling like very well, and now they have to transform to digital. But how and what? There's iPad, right? iPad is new. Is this the thing? Should they create an e-magazine for iPads, or should they focus on website? How to do all this advertisement, ad platform, ad tech, everything they don't understand, and they see me, this guy who working on a small website. I think he can help. So they recruit me, right? They recruit me, and it was interesting because they assigned me to transform all of these like magazine brands. This media group, they have 80 magazine under their company. Some of them like big name from the US, so National Geographic, Fortune, and there are also a lot of like local brands. So they asked me, like you can do anything, just make money out of like digital, right? You can build a website, build an app, build a game, like I don't care. So I, with all that freedom, I meet a lot of interesting people, right? Like there are some like really talented people in Indonesia who builds an e-magazine platform, who builds like a gaming platform for BlackBerry, who built this, mobile site solution. So all this, and it's extremely challenging, but at the same time, it's not very challenging. Challenging because you have to build something new. It's not very challenging because there's no industry standard, right? There's no saying, when you make less than 10,000 K means you fail because no one making money out of this, right?
Yeah.
So you can be as creative as you want. So because of this, right, I get exposure to the like all these bright people, which is now they become like all these great founders, like in the startup scenes. So it's interesting to also see their journey, right? And do you remember like the WeChat, Line when they come to the region, right? I'm pretty sure they also come to Malaysia.
Yes.
They try to own the. So back then, WeChat come to Indonesia, and they do joint venture with one of the right, and they do all this crazy TVC, and they package this story of WeChat going into Southeast Asia region, and they market it outside Southeast Asia, right?
Yes.
This is for the investors out there.
Yes.
Oh, WeChat is going to own Southeast Asia. Okay, so that attract. Are you familiar with KakaoTalk?
Yes. I mean, at one point in time, they were very heavily marketing KakaoTalk. Yes.
In Malaysia, right? I was there also.
Yeah.
Kakao is actually the Google of Korea.
Yeah,
so
Korea.
Korea, Japan, China, they're different planet when it comes to tech.
Yes.
Google is not very well accepted there. No one use Google Map. No one use Uber. They all have their own solution. So Kakao is the biggest internet player in Korea, and they have this messenger app called KakaoTalk. So they see the WeChat story, right? They saw the WeChat story. They want to do the same. So they come to Indonesia. They want to do joint venture with a media company, right? So they come to my media company, and the head of the digital division of my company called Eddie. Like his name is Eddie, right? He's like he's a big guy. He rules like all this hundreds of like digital brand in the company. My direct boss is another Eddie, not that Eddie.
Okay.
So the KakaoTalk people, they come to the office and they ask, "Can I meet Mr. Eddie?" And people at the reception, they actually walk in the building, go to the reception, and they, "Can I meet Mr. Eddie? Because I saw in the news Mr. Eddie is like the head of digital division." And it's like, Eddie, I know one Eddie. He sits in the like third floor in the office, right? So they go to the third floor of the office. Like I remember like two like Korean people come to the office and like, "I want to see Mr. Eddie." And I was there. No. Mr. Eddie is having lunch. Like, do you have like any purpose? You guys coming? We want to do joint venture. Imagine me, less than 1 year working in that company, right? I was nothing. I was like assistant manager. That's an official title back then. And these guys want to do joint venture, right? So I call my boss. Hey, boss, Eddie, like people come to the joint venture. What to do? It's like, joint venture? Like, why coming to like this part of the office? They should go to the headquarters somewhere and just entertain them, right? I'll go up. So I have them, sit them down, make them coffee, right? Give them like local Indonesian tasty snack. And while we are waiting for the fake AD to come, so we chat. And that opportunity changed my life. Because when we chat, they prepare a presentation, right? So they might as well. So I told them, "Oh, you guys come to the wrong office and everything." And there's like, "Oh no, like no one told us like where to go, who to meet,
which Eddie to ask for."
Yeah, which Eddie to ask for. We already prepared like a 30-minute presentation. I might as well present it to you. And then they present it to me. And you know what? Back then, I thought I was already sitting on top of this, this digital knowledge in the region, because I do everything, right? I do gaming, I do e-magazine, I do website, I do mobile site, I do mobile ads and everything. And then they do this 30-minute presentation that blew my mind. They show me what's going on in Korea. So what they do with the messenger, what they do with the search platform, what they do with gaming. They introduced me of this concept of a platform that connects to all. So now people take it for granted, right? Back then, if you have Facebook friends, if you play game on Facebook, you can see how is your friend performing. They did it first, so they already have it. They show it to me, and then they also show how people in Korea accept technology. So they show how Uniqlo and other big brands out there advertising Kakao for free because they made an official account. Right? Official account is like back then. That's, I think, also Twitter don't have that official checkmark yet. So official account and Uniqlo make official account and they advertise heavily. And I was like, how do you do this crazy marketing with zero money? And they also show me the power of this organic adoption, because Kakao become number one internet brand in Korea with zero marketing money, and that's true story. So they reached their first 50 million active user, zero marketing. So what they do is they build something hyper local. So back then, they, like people in Korea, they use Yahoo Messenger, MIRC, and everything, right? But that solution made for US people. So what they do in Kakao is they localize everything, like even the language they use inside the app, right? So something when they do like announcement, when they blast like a message, they use local slang, local dialect. They ask like local comic creator to draw like a sticker character, which is which is not very. They have a lot of expression which is not polite, right? So they use that. They use the sticker, this crazy sticker, which is might not be okay for all people, but they use it anyway, and it like people just fell in love with the brand.
Yeah.
So when I saw that presentation, I was like, I was doing it all wrong. Like, I thought I understand everything. I try to force solution for people, but you actually have to build from people for them. Yeah. So that 30-minute presentation changed my mind, and I forced myself to them, like just hire me, whatever. Just like I need to learn about this. I don't care, you just assign me to like any task. I just want to be here. I just want to be with you guys. I want to understand. I want to learn. So yes, so I think all that accident brought me to where I am now. And
that role when you joined Kakao, that was your first product manager role, right? I believe, like official product manager role.
Okay, funny story. My official on paper title was marketing consultant.
Oh, okay.
But then, but because they don't do any marketing at all, and then all we do a lot of brainstorm the first week I joined, and I think they start realizing that this guy actually can do better in product compared to marketing, because I built BlackBerry. I'm in the team that built BlackBerry apps, that application solution, everything. So they assign me in product. But then that's also a realization, right? Because as a new product guy, the way I imagine product was is something interesting, something fancy. You build this new solution. So I remember I create around 20 PPT slides on, like, let's introduce this gamification element to the app. Let's do something extremely local. But in reality, right, when you build a digital product, it's not always that fancy. So I spent my first year to optimize network. You remember 3G was a new thing back then. And I'm pretty sure it's similar situation in Malaysia and Indonesia and other region in Southeast Asia, where there's only like small areas, maybe in your university, in your office, that internet works well, and you have to go to that spot if you want to download something or something. So that was my first and biggest project in Kakao, just to make sure that chat can be delivered in 2G network, which is not very sexy. Right?
No, but
a lot.
Oh, but I was just gonna say, right, but that is the very interesting part about doing product management in Southeast Asia, which you don't necessarily get in other parts of the world. And I say this with all fascination, I think, because both you and I I think we're very similar in the sense that we studied in our home countries, and we grew up there, and we saw the change, right, and we come from the era where we are not digital natives, right? We were digital adopters. So we also know all the different evolutions of the digital adoption. And you're right, because like in the US and many of the Western countries as well, the internet was always very good. And in fact, it's very interesting that for you in Kakao, that was your first like big project, because in Korea, even at that time, right, they were the main.
They're 5G. They have
correct
5G.
Exactly. So
5G.
so Korea
2013 they already have 5G.
Exactly. And so the fact that they were willing to invest in making sure that connectivity in low penetration countries like Indonesia, like Malaysia, I think is very amazing. And that's why every time people ask me, why do you think product management in Southeast Asia is different? I think it's very different because we are solving different sets of problems. And even like I always say, that for Southeast Asia, right, when we're usually not building for a desktop first people or segment, right? Because a lot of them, they skipped that part because computers were too expensive. But when mobile phones and smartphones came in, and then 3G and then 4G came in, they all realized that, wow, now data and connectivity is accessible to everyone. And so the thinking behind it, I think, is still different from other countries. So very, very interesting. Yeah.
That's I think where Southeast Asia and I think other emerging countries, right? They changed the actual meaning of localization. Like back then, the first localization means translating, right? Localize this app
Yes.
means you translate the wording, right? And even when you do translation, you have to do it like words by words. You really cannot, interpret it in a local nuance and everything.
Yeah.
But I think becoming a product manager in this region, the emerging region, localization means a lot of modification here and there, because there are some app, like some product flow that is really not matching how people interpret the product here. Sometimes you have to replace an entire sentence in your digital product for people to understand. So that actually what local, when this is before the startups, right? So when you bring outside solution, Facebook or any other products coming from the US, the Europe, when you do localization, you have to actually adapt it to the local market.
Yeah.
And this is where I think some players do well, some players really don't understand this. So during back coming back to my Kakao time, right? There are three big messengers back then. There's Line, WeChat, and Kakao, and only Line still survive until now. And that's because they actually built a local community, a very strong local community, and they do partnership with all this local media to provide a local content daily. So that's the only strategy that works.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, you brought up some really good questions that I think, if we have time, I want to jump into, right? But let's fast forward a little bit, because after Kakao, you went to Path, you went to Grab for a while, and then Oi. And I want to sort of cut to the point in your career where you're the chief product officer at WhiteCoat Global. And you're the. Can you tell me more about what about WhiteCoat Global, and what you did there? Because there's a question that comes after that, but I want to just want to dig in a little bit to this part.
Okay, so I think this happened pre-pandemic era. That now feels like ancient time. Yes. So some personal reason, right? So I plan to, my career goal is not stopping at Indonesia, right? I want to become the product expert that understand a bigger region. So I spent a good 7-8 years building product in Indonesia. Now I want to take it to the next level, which is Southeast Asia. And the goal is actually to understand the global market, like how it works. I have experience with the Korean market. I know a bit about how product works well in the US. But I really want to go deep, not only on the surface level. So my career goal is, just when you talk Southeast Asia, you go to Singapore, right? Because that's the hub. I mean, when you work in Singapore, doesn't mean you only serve the Singapore country, but you have to understand how things work in the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia. And I think it's also aligned with my personal story, because I was engaged back then, and my fiance, she got a job in Singapore. So I have to force myself to move to Singapore.
Okay.
So I was looking for. I was working at Grab before, so I was exploring that opportunity. I contact friends in Grab. Are you guys? Do you have opening? Is there any good position that fit with my profile? And they say, that might be something. Why don't you just come and talk? So I go to Singapore, meet some Grab friends, and we talk. But during that time, I also have some colleagues, some old colleagues from my previous experience working in the media company, and he actually told me, now that you're here, so we go for a lunch, and then he told me, now that you're here, why don't you join a local startup here in Singapore? And you're a startup guy, should be interesting. And they're building for the region, which is aligned to your goal. So he hijacked me, and he convinced me. And also, it's very interesting because WhiteCoat is a telemedicine solution, which is it's the thing now, especially after the pandemic, right? But pre-pandemic, it's still a fancy solution for for people. So great timing. So I talked with the people from WhiteCoat. They are young, they're ambitious, they understand. So another great thing about them is they understand the industry very well. So not only the digital industry, but how things working in this medical industry, which is like another different creature, right? There's insurance, there's pharmaceutical, there's hospital reference, specialists, GP, regulation is different. The whole culture and tradition for doctors is like totally different with like other industries out there. So for me, it's fascinating, right? Oh, something I have no idea. Looks interesting. They're going for the region, so why not? That, like, when I joined WhiteCoat, the team member, I think around 10, less than 15 people.
Okay.
So they're small, they're ambitious, they know what they're doing. So yes, that's how the story began. They hijacked me from rejoining Grab.
Interesting. For all you Grab people who are listening to the show, I had nothing to do with this. Okay. So my question was actually going to be, the follow-up question was, what made you decide to go from WhiteCoat Global to BukuWarung?
Okay. Complex story. First, right before the pandemic, I remember WhiteCoat, we are planning to go to the region, right?
Yes.
Open in Indonesia. We're exploring other countries as well. Like, project is already ongoing, product is already like 70% ready and everything. And then the pandemic hits. Okay? The pandemic hits. So on the personal side, because of the pandemic, right? I feel that I have no plan to return to Indonesia, like, to be honest with you. So I moved to Singapore permanently. The apartment that I signed contract with is actually long term, and we, like, me and my fiance, we already have the marriage date. We already start looking for this preschool and everything. But pandemic really changed the whole context of my personal goal. I feel that I have to be closer with family, and situation was not really ideal, especially in Indonesia, where in the early stage of pandemics, there's a lot of unknown, right? You really don't know where is this going. So it became anxious for me and my fiance, my partner. We feel that we have to go back closer to family, and at the same time, this also, it's not very clear, right, with the industry itself. I mean, telemedicine was booming. In a pandemic, telemedicine in WhiteCoat, and also WhiteCoat is, because it's navigating in the medical world, they're considered as essential. So for us, it's a bit normal. Like, we still go to the office. I mean, lockdown doesn't apply because we actually help people, right? But again, it's conflicting. I'm helping people, but people back home, it helps. So I decided to just step back for a bit and return to Indonesia. At the same time, BukuWarung. So BukuWarung, I started BukuWarung together with Chinmay before I moved to Singapore. So it's
okay.
It's actually it's an interesting project. So me and Chinmay, we met at Grab, 2017.
Yes. I kind of figured it must be the Grab connection, right?
Yes, the Grab mafia. Yeah. So we're both product manager in 2017.
Correct.
I was so okay. Again, my Grab story is also interesting. I work at Grab only for 3 months.
Yes, right? I was going to ask you about that, but okay.
And this is also like for Grab people out there. Maybe you guys heard this the first time, but during that 3 months, I went to 2 offsites, one in Phuket and one in Bali, and that 3 months is also the same time as the big holiday in Indonesia. So 2 offsite, 1 holiday bonus. and then I'm off. So okay, also that part, right? Because before joining Grab, there are some a high school friend of mine who work at Gojek, right? Who work at Gojek. Like we are very close, and he actually are you familiar with Gojek?
Yes.
Of course.
I mean, I'm quite familiar, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the most successful product of Gojek is GoFood. When you order your food online, right? And my high school friend is the guy who started the GoFood initiative inside. So, he became very successful. He exited Gojek, right? And he always come to me say, let's start our own startup. Let's create. You're from Kakao. Why don't we create like Kakao for Indonesia? Why don't we build this chatting like solution that can conquer all? And I was asking him, do we have investor? Do you have money? No. I have my exit money. I was like, that doesn't, we need more. So if you cannot convince me, let's stop talking, right? So this discussion happened before I joined Grab. And then I joined Grab. And 3 months in, this guy came, was like, we got investor. So you have no reason not to, start all this. Okay. So after 3 months in Grab, I decided to, start this startup. It's called Oi. They're doing very well until now. So moving to Singapore is personal because I was doing Oi. It was fun. It was great. But then, personal alignment. I have to go with my fiance. We went to Singapore. Pandemic happened. Returned to Indonesia. But like during that time, right? Chinmay left Grab. He became product director at Carousel. And I think his Grab experience in Indonesia, right, is an eye opener for him. Like he understands, the opportunity, and there, like this country we have a lot of problem that still can be solved, and this problem actually happening on a grassroots level, right? Working at Grab means you're solving problem for two segments: the customers and the drivers.
Yes.
And solving for drivers is what interesting, right? Because they are people who either unemployed before or having a profession that pays lower than the minimum wage. So it's a complex problem that is non-existent in other startup. So I think when me and Chinmay, when we did that at Grab, it's actually feels very, how do you say, satisfying. It's fulfilling startup.
Were you doing the safety for riders as well? Because I remember Chinmay did one project based on that. I saw his presentation. So and that was it for Indonesia as well, I think.
Yes. I think safety is the one of the biggest focus, right? When you do this kind of solution at Grab. I was during my time at Grab, I was a country product manager. It entitles to localizing every solution come from the headquarters. So when they build something new, so I'm the guy who translate this into the like Indonesian
local
market
context,
and local context, and then I assign this to ops team. This is what you do. Marketing team, this should be the message. Product team, this is how you navigate through the product. So I got exposed to all kind of solutions, not specific. I think in Grab, the way they structure is there's a team for safety, there's a team for economics, there's a team for food, there's a team for logistic, and country product managers actually helping all these teams. Right? It's actually like interesting position. So that experience exposed both me and Chinmay of this actual economy problem of the people in the country, in Indonesia. So he became director at Carousel, but I think that experience really it eye opener also for him, that Carousel is built for different solution, right? It's a seller to seller platform. It's interesting but not as fulfilling, maybe, right? I'm guessing for him maybe it's not as fulfilling as solving for this bigger scale problem. So right before I fly to Singapore, he actually come to Jakarta and he asked me, let's do something. Let's build a solution. Why don't you and me, we walk around the city, we talk to like people, Gojek drivers, Grab drivers, warung owners. You have warung also in Malaysia, right?
Yes.
Do you call it the same? Yeah.
We call it stalls, lah, right? The warungs.
Yeah, stalls. Yeah. Why don't we chat with them? Ask them what their problem that we can solve. So that's what we did. So me and Chinmay, we took a train outside the city, right? Just one weekend, we took the train outside the city, and then we walked around. Like we purposely go to the university area because usually around universities there's tons of
lots of the warungs. Yeah.
So we go there. We spend whole day sitting down with them, understanding how they're navigating through life, and we try to think what solution can we build for them. And one thing that is very apparent is every time we go to these small stalls, right, we always see a pen and paper in various forms. Some of them they put it next to they just put nail on the wall. Some use book, some use paper that they some of them actually they don't remember where they put that pen and paper thing, and they use it for different purposes. Some of them they use it as cashier, right? So they write down everything, every item out, item in, transactions. Some of them they use it for customer credit, right? You come to my store, you do pay later, right? I take some cigarette, I pay you next week. So you put down names, and so that's one thing that is common out of all these small stores, right? And then we realized that they use it all differently. They use it all for different purposes. And one thing that we observe other than that is they all use smartphone, right? Whenever we come to the small stalls that is less crowded, it's either they are playing PUBG, Mobile Legend, or YouTube. That's it. Only those three, right? So they have smartphone. They don't use it wisely because there's a lot of things that you can help your business, right? As basic as calculator or notes, the native notes app in the app that can help them track all this. They don't use it well. They use pen and paper, which is contrasting. So me and Chinmay, we return, and then we do brainstorm, and then we also have like one engineer friend who's sitting in Singapore, and then we asked, like, we found this problem, like people using this pen and paper for different purpose. Why don't you create a prototype for them? So in 2 nights, he created the prototype, and then we decided to go first for the credit tracking. So for customer who do pay later, you just track it in the app. So we create a prototype, and then we go back to the same small stores that we visit, and we ask them to use. And that's it. That's where this all began. They love it very much. They arrange a community event among them, right? So they actually pay out of their pocket to run these tiny restaurants, and they invite us because they want us to teach them how to use it.
Wow.
Yes. And that's where all this story connects, right? When you build a solution for this region, it has to come from them. It's not that you create a product and then you force it to them. No, it has to come from them. And yes, that's where the story happens. But after that, I left for Singapore.
Yes. I was gonna ask you, but yeah. Okay. Right.
It's also a bit conflicting for me, right? Because it's exciting and everything, but and actually like the team asked me to you can continue. Why don't you just? But I was like, moving to Singapore is a permanent move, and after Singapore, the plan is actually to go even further, maybe to Korea or Japan. So I feel like this is not very aligned with my personal goals. So I decided, I told them, I still can help, I still can give you advice and everything, but now I want to focus to my Singapore life.
Right.
But I keep following the news, right? And I was like, these guys, they're amazing. Every 3 months, there's big, investors come, and the number of users become like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. It's like crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic hits, and I feel like I have to return and everything, I think for them, like it's good news, right? It's like now you're here.
Okay.
Yep, and that's where I decided to just rejoin the party, and yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the interesting thing is that when you started with them as a part of the founding team, you were in charge of growth, right?
Everyone was in charge of growth. Everyone back then, everyone was in charge of growth.
Yeah,
that's only one. There's only one purpose.
Of course, yeah, because when you're early stage, that's what you need, right? You need the growth to show, so that So and now you are currently the head of product for BukuWarung, right? There are lots of questions that I want to dive into here, and the first question is, how did you know, or what were the telltale signs that it was time to have a head of growth and to sort of change or transition into that role, as to because like you say, right, when it's a small team and you're growing, everybody needs to focus on growth, so basically everyone needs to hustle together. But at some certain stage in the life cycle of a company, especially at project life cycle, that whole graph and everything, when you're hitting that scale, trying to grow for scale, that's when you usually then get your product team together. So my question is, how did you know, or how did BukuWarung get into that understanding that now it's time that we really need to have like a proper product structure and things like that?
Yes, that's very relevant. Your question. So first, that's true. When you start something new, when you start your own startup, right? Everyone have to just focus on one goal, and it's the best if you choose. But growth itself can be anything, right?
Yes.
Growth can be the number of users, the number, your revenue, number of partners and everything, right? Just focus on one thing, growth.
Yes.
But what we are offering to the market, right, which is this simple bookkeeping solution, the product also has to grow, because like people love it, right? People love it. People use it every day. BukuWarung, they use it for their tracking their customer credit. But we start getting requests, right? We also want to track other element in our business. We also want to track expense and income. So we start building for that solution. Until you reach until certain point, it still can be manageable without focusing on the product. But there are some point that you have to really think about this, because if you always build what the customers want, it also can be dangerous, right? Because you might deviate from the actual product that you want to build, or the actual goal that you want to achieve. So someone needs to actually really think about what you're building next. And then so until you reach that point, it's actually intersection of a lot of factors. First is the product evolution. Second is number of user also, right? Because when we're talking micro business segment in Indonesia, there are 60 million. This is government data. 65 million now. So that's the potential market that we can own. But this 60 million consists of all kind of business, right? Not only one type. There are several types, and each business is like doing their business differently. Laundry business is tracking their inventory different with the cigarette sellers, right? So you have to be conscious until you reach that point, because you can build a solution that fits all t-shirt, like one t-shirt,
one size fits all. Yeah.
But until what point that your customers start having different needs, and you have to make that call, and then at what number of user that still makes sense when you build solution for all. And if you want to grow beyond that number, then you have to really think about it, right? Because when you build a solution that fits one market, this other user will definitely leave and find solution that match with their business better. So that's also, I think we haven't reached that point yet, but we started thinking about anticipating when we reach that point. And also we start seeing other players come to the market because of what we did. We start seeing other products very similar to us entering the market, which for us is blessing, right? Because we are pioneer, we are the first. If we are the only one, the burden of educating the market of digital bookkeeping will be only on us. Right? Now that we have like 2, 3, 4 other players, then the burden of educating the market is on 4 of us, right? So we can bear the education costs together. that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I think this other solution will be, if they want to copy our success story, they will just copy what we built, right? And there will be no product differentiation. At some point, all of us has to build something, different.
That's unique.
That's unique. And then if you reach that 2 culmination point, right, which is your number of user, what they need, and then the product evolution, you start realizing that you need to have more people in your team, right? Because this doesn't work with 5 people in the team anymore. You have to have people that really think about growth strategy. You want to focus on the organic growth, which is gathering this community, starting WhatsApp group here and there, going to visit all these stalls. That alone is not scalable, right? How do you visit like 2 million stalls during the whole month? So think about it, and then product evolution also, right? So first you build your credit solution, which is one big module.
Yeah.
And then you introduce another element, which is transaction, income, profit, expense tracking, another big module. When you want to introduce something new, again, 1% cannot do this. Because you also think, you also need to think how to connect this, right? When you build something, how to communicate this, how to market this, and if there's do we have to iterate on these features? Do we have to kill these features? Do we have to build something new on this? Then it's not scalable. So you have to make the call early, not at the right time. You have to make the call early to prepare your team. You have to hire people that understand, and you have to know what you're building for. So let's say if you want to introduce a safety element to the app, right? So you have to find people who have experience that introducing maybe a pin lock or fingerprint or face ID or so that alone needs planning, right? That alone you have to focus on your user. You have to focus also on this product solution for user, and you have to plan for it. And that's where it's extremely challenging for us back then because of the rapid the growth that we have is actually unprecedented. Like even we are not prepared for it, right? We don't know like market really needs this solution. They adopt very well. So we grew extremely fast. So we have to stretch ourselves. The initial like 15 members, everyone startup, right? Everyone's working on everything.
Yeah.
Until we realized that all of us working 24/7 and things start falling apart.
Yeah.
Not the product, but things outside work start falling apart.
Yeah.
And this all happened during the pandemic, right? So I remember for me, the eye-opener moment is where one of my team member, he forget his anniversary. And he was sitting next to his wife the whole day, right? Working. And then the day after, he's like, shit, guys, yesterday was my anniversary. I'm so doomed. And then that's the realization moment that, this cannot be done with like 15 people building for, I think back then we have around 2.5 million users.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, just deep diving into, by the way, this is an amazing story as well, right? And that's why I wanted really to hear the story of BukuWarung. But just going down this path as well. So you understand, the entire organization realizes 15 people, this kind of scale, not sustainable. You definitely need to grow the team. So here comes the chicken and egg question, right? And this, I think, I'm almost certain every startup at some point in time, when they wanted to scale, had to ask this question first. Do you scale your engineering team first, or do you scale your product team first? So what did BukuWarung do?
Okay. The ideal. Okay, when we're talking ideal, is always engineering. Right?
Yes.
If your product is a digital product, then focus on engineering. If your product is, when you do some creative thing, you become like an agency, then focus on your designers. Always focus on the craftsman, right?
Correct.
Of your product.
Correct.
And when we talk digital product, the craftsman is engineers. Nobody else. Product is the architect, and we don't need that many architects, but we need a lot of like craftsmen in the company.
Yeah.
But the challenge of scaling engineering team in Southeast Asia is real.
Yes.
Right? Because I think it's very apparent because again, this is the advantage of all these developed countries have. I mean, they reach that point first, so they already have like great engineers. They have actually great school to breed all these good engineers. But we are a bit late on that front, where right now we relatively have a lot of like engineering talent, but the quality gap, it's still there. I have to be very honest. The quality gap is still there. We're catching up a lot, but also to help that race of catching up the quality engineer, we have to have people like engineering coming from other regions. And imagine the challenge that BukuWarung have. First, we are a new brand, right? As of now, we are 18 months old. Second, we are pioneering in this area, bookkeeping app, right? So when you talk e-commerce, online transport, food delivery, everything, it's existed, and it's very easy to explain that to people, right? And it sounds sexy, right? People want to work for that, e-commerce, messenger, but bookkeeping. To explain that itself is like, it's a bit tricky, right? This is a bookkeeping solution. What's a bookkeeping solution? So the difficulty was real for us. It's during the early days, it's difficult to attract great engineering talents, and also because these giants, right, Gojek, Grab, Traveloka, all these region giants, they absorb all. They absorb all the engineering talent in the region.
Exactly.
Yes, so it's difficult, but again, through personal network, right, we managed to hire like really great ones, and then let the product talk. Back then, we didn't focus on product, right? There's only few people working on the product front. We focus on scaling the engineering team. It's still the focus until now, actually, scaling the engineering team. But the success story of the product itself, they announced themselves. So we reached 5 million users, and then media start highlighting us. And then I think what worked best is not that. What worked best is the story of the merchant itself. That's like the most powerful magnet we have in the company. Every time we tell the story of how we help our merchant life, and we highlight them. We do tons of this talk with our merchants. We have team that visit them every day. We do daily calls to them. We try to reach as many as possible. And then when we highlight this story to the public, that's like the biggest magnet, actually. We have people applying, and whenever we ask, they always say, what I do in my current company is boring. I don't know why I'm doing it, for what purpose, and I see the great impact that your company is bringing. Like, I just want to contribute. Right?
So I guess, so you were saying that that's the ideal way, right? So in BukuWarung, how has it been done? Like, did you all scale the number of engineers and then hire the product managers after, the product designers after, or did you decide that because there is a lack of talent that you can attract, so let's build the have multiple product managers, and then then scale the engineering team?
I think it's like focus on engineering is always number one for us, right? Because I think we're quite lucky that founders is coming from startup background, right? So he understands, like Chinmay, Abi, and other founding team. They understand this digital product have to build by engineers. So that's always number one focus. Let's attract engineering talent. And I think product and design is not as we have great designers, great young talented designers, and again, this is not a fancy product, right? BukuWarung should not be a fancy product because we're solving for the grassroots problem. So we don't have problem there, right? So what we build is what we want. So our best product manager and our best designer is our user, right? So we just call them, ask them, how do you like this new feature? How do you think this can be improved? And then we just build, and then people use it, right? So we don't have this. I think it's never the focus of creating a product that can interact this way, can manage to do, because the fancier we build, the more resistant this target user will use the product. It has to be extremely simple, and this is what also one of our strong point in the market. Whenever we call a user, why do you like us? Because it's simple. So to keep it that way, we also don't focus on hiring great designers, product like fancy this kind of fancy product manager. Of course, we will focus on that maybe sometime soon. But engineering is the focus. Why? Because I think the experience in Kakao really, like Kakao and Grab, right? Kakao has 100 million daily active users, and their most loved product is the chatting. Chatting is quite simple. It's just sending text, sending image, and that's it. But what I learned from the engineering team, right? When you build a chatting platform for 10 people, when you build a chatting platform for 1,000 people, and when you build a chatting platform for 1 million people, right? Design can be the same, product features can be the same, but the engineering infrastructure is totally different for all those three segments, right? So this is also where our focus is. 1 million user, 2 million user. Now we're at 6.5 million user. So that engineering infrastructure have to be super solid and super strong. And we need like great engineering talents to actually help us build that. Solution we keep it simple. We don't want a fancy solution. We want like efficient, effective, simple solution. But building for 6 million is why engineering is the focus.
Okay. So out of curiosity, what's the current product manager to engineer ratio in BukuWarung at the moment?
From the top of my head, I think it's around 1314.
Okay. So it's 1314.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And sorry, I just find this whole this part of the conversation very interesting. So I want to dive a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah, sure.
And for BukuWarung, because the thing that's very interesting was that BukuWarung is not, like you say, it was not built to be a sexy app, right? It was built to be an app that would help the people that are in the lower rungs of the business, the micro SMEs. And so it has to be functional. So for you as the head of product, right, how do you split the focus for the different product managers? Like, different companies, some they do it by the different segments or the different verticals, right? You are growth, you are engagement, you are retention, you are conversion. And some do it by platform. Okay, you are in charge of app, you are in charge of web, you are in charge of so and so forth. So many different permutations. What's the current thinking like for BukuWarung from the product side of things to focus in on different focus areas?
Okay, I think again this is similar to the focus on growth. So during different stage of your product, totally the org will evolve, right?
Yes.
So at the beginning, everyone should just focus on one thing, and then we start branching, and then we have to have people that own a specific areas.
Yep.
So right now, how we structure the product team to focus, right? There are still areas that focusing on growth, which is this new user experience, right? People who found out about us through the YouTube videos or maybe a Facebook group or maybe WhatsApp. They want to try the product, so that's the first area of the product. This first new experience, right? They come to the app. What the first screen that they see, what messages, what value proposition there, and how their first transaction record, their first customer credit record experience feels like. So that's one area to focus. So we have product there, and then it goes deeper, right? Because again, like every business have different needs, right? There are how to track customer credit will be different between different type of business. How to track your expense and inventory. So that core experience, we also focus on product area there. So new user experience and then core experience, and then there are solution that is we call it the fancy solution, which sit on top of this core experience, which is tracking inventory, right? Alarm reminder for you to start your business, close your business, everything. So this other solution is another area that we group in the app right now. And then there are a lot of integration happening, right? Because sending OTP, we need to integrate SMS or WhatsApp solution, and then push notification, that's required integration. And if you want to introduce some like tracker, like event tracker in the app or other solution that can help us scale. That all requires integration.
Mm.
And integration happening one time, but then maintaining that partnership with the technology partner itself take a lot of energy. So that's another area that we want to focus on. And then we ask our product manager just to put their head down, understand this, and talk to your users, right? So don't build solution based on your gut feeling. Always talk to the user first, understand the data, and then improve on that area. So right now we still focus on the product area that you see in the app. So that's how we break down. But that's also, I mean, if you that's also some other so big tech company like Agoda, Booking.com, even Grab, they started this way, and once they reach certain level, it will evolve again, right? And then you can group even smaller.
Correct.
The thing.
Okay. And again, just still going down this rabbit hole, right? Because you and Chinmay, actually, I don't know whether the other founding team members, how many were ex-product managers, but definitely you and Chinmay, I know were product people through and through, right? So like for you, as you grow the team, you are now the head of product. So obviously you are probably one step removed from the day-to-day already, and that's where the other product managers are doing it. How do you make sure that the product team that is now under you have that freedom to build, at the same time not deviating away from what you said, right? Because once the product starts becoming too sexy, too fancy, you actually lose a segment of users. So I'm trying to understand this from as a product person who is now the head of a massively fast growing product. How do you keep that for your team, right? How do you manage between the senior leadership team / founding team versus the product team as well?
I think for that one is actually not very difficult. Why? Because I create this rule for all product managers in my company. That is mandatory for them to sit down with user twice a week minimum. There are some product managers who do it like every day. There are some product managers who try to squeeze in 5 sessions per week, and that's your boss, not me, right? So I think they always understand, because right now we are focusing on this micro segments, right? Even though they have different needs for business, but it's always around the same team, and it never deviates from. Sometimes when we do brainstorming between product managers, right, there are some crazy ideas of why don't we do like a Snapchat format, when people can interact this way? Why don't we introduce AR, augmented reality into all this fancy, interesting project, right? We do brainstorm, but when we sit down with users, we listen to. I want to calculate my cost of goods sales, because the chicken that I bought last week, this week, like one has died, and it's very difficult to sell. So this kind of communication, this kind of conversation is like really what grounded you, right? So why talk about AR when your customers actually need help to count the number of eggs the chicken lay? So it's very grounding experience. And second, we always do regular huddle where we summarize all this conversation with our user, and then we can start pinpoint, so this is actually the solution that they need. And these notes, right? So we navigate our daily life, the company, around user problem. So these notes are shared like company-wide. So we always focus on customer. We understand what they need. I think that's a mistake that we did when we focus on growth. When we focus on growth, we try to be as effective, as efficient as ever, right? So the focus back then was, how we make advertisement cheap, how we acquire, and we put less focus on users. So when we scale the engineering and product team, we are fortunate that we quickly realized that we should spend more time with users. So around November, December last year is where we make it mandatory for everyone to sit down with user. And again, I think this really helps the alignment, right? Because even when if Chinmay and other founders say, let's build this, but if our user don't want, then we don't build for that. And this is difficult, and this is tough to navigate because now we are on pandemic situation, right?
Yeah.
So communicating with this grassroots merchant via Google Meet or Zoom is tricky.
Yeah.
We can only do WhatsApp call, right? And for like our merchants are sitting nationwide, right? Some areas they have really bad connection, so that's actually where the challenge is. And then some of them actually they told us this, why don't you just come to my stall and see it? But the stall located quite far, and we cannot travel now.
Yep.
So that's the actual challenge that we have right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have one more question. I know, sorry, we are going a little bit over, but like I said, it's a very interesting story. So, actually, there are two questions. Let's see whether we'll get through those two. But yeah, all right. So, first question is, so you grew up in Indonesia. You studied there, and you've seen, like we said, right? You've seen the changes and everything. And one of the things that you talked about early on when we started was the fact that, when this hyper-localization was happening for Southeast Asia, companies started to understand that you can't always just bring people in from other countries to then, come in and understand how it works in the local communities, right? So my question is, we still have continued to see this in Southeast Asia, where a lot of big tech companies are bringing in talents who are either returning back after spending 5-10 years overseas, or in a lot of cases as well, people who were not from this region as well, and they're coming back. And you are a case of the other opposite, where you are homegrown and you've understood everything. What are your thoughts in terms of this conundrum between the homegrown product talent versus the expats, so to speak, who come back? Do you think this is a problem, or do you think that no, this is something that is just natural? And yeah,
this is an actual problem. This is a problem happening 5 years back, right? So what happened? I saw a lot of this US based startup come here. They hire a US graduate that just recently returned. They think or we provide best education, like this guy will do well, but that's not the case, right? And I think it became apparent. And I think what Gojek did, right, is a great learning and education for us all. So for the viewers who's not, I'm pretty sure most of you guys understand what Gojek is, right? They're Uber. They started with Uber with motorbikes, right? Which is extremely smart, extremely localized, and extremely on point. And it's an actual problem because we have this like motorbike driver that take you around, and it's an unregularized industry, and it's been going on for like 30-40 years. So they make Uber for that. And what they did is they hire mostly like local people. Again, Indonesia is unique, right? Because there's Jakarta and there's outside Jakarta. Jakarta is different planet.
Correct. Yeah.
New building for Indonesia is different challenge when compared to when you're building for Jakarta. So Gojek, I think one of the big tech companies that hire people outside Jakarta and not asking them to move to Jakarta, right? They hire people and you stay there and you make this work with whatever local knowledge that working and can be applied. So, and then when the company grows, right, there are some employees who just return from the US, from Europe, studying. And then there's the realization moment when they understand that all this fancy education really helped creating the structure, way of thinking and processing some information. But when you on ground, then this is something that you never studied before. This is something that you have to be there to understand. You have to spend a lot of time on ground. Then you understand what the problem is. And then that's happening around 2017, 2018. And I think that message is, spread very well, because even now we have, like, even in BukuWarung itself, right? We have students in Ivy League in US who's interning for us, right? So I think they understand that, if you want to build for the region, you have to be on the region. You have to understand the local region context. And I think that's also what they've been teaching, I'm guessing, that. Because even for me, it's surprising, right? These kids from Stanford, from Brown University, they apply to intern for us, and they actually want to talk with the merchant. So even for me, it's surprising because sometimes they only want to do usually they only want to do the fancy things, right? Data processing, doing SQL and stuff like that. But now, please invite me to this WhatsApp group that you guys have with the merchant. So I think like what Gojek, Grab, and other big players do is a great, learning and education. And I start seeing the message, they're showing in the US that, Southeast Asia is the next big thing. And ever since that happening, previously, like 5-10 years ago, whenever there's, expat come to the region, they try to apply whatever they know to the market. But nowadays, people who come, they start from zero, right? They always start with, like teach me the language, bring me to your user, tell me well where local get their food, what local apps should I use. So the mindset is totally different nowadays compared to what happened 5-6 years ago.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, last question before we go into the final segment, right? So one of the questions that I've not come back to revisit in a while, but it's something that constantly plays on my mind, is being more inclusive in terms of product leadership in Southeast Asia. And even people who followed this show for a long time will realize, I've said it before, I actually have difficulty looking for female, specifically in this case of inclusivity, female product leaders in Southeast Asia. And I don't know how prevalent this is in Indonesia, but what I've seen, especially in Malaysia as well, is there is a distinct gender disparity, especially in product management. It's very male biased in that sense. So and you being someone who's homegrown, I would love to get your thoughts on this. How do we make this product role more balanced in terms of making sure that we have great female talent as well? So for the viewers and listeners, just to give you context, I'm not excluding any other form of inclusivity, but for me, what I see being in this region is that this is currently a very big disparity. I mean, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, so I think this is where I'm very fortunate that us, like BukuWarung Group as a company, we are very lucky. Right now, our acceptance rate, like we hire, I think around 40 to 50% female than male. And then in the team itself, right now, the composition, I think is above 30% of the whole team is female. And that's increasing because of this hiring initiative. So first of all, I think I'm very lucky because I've never worked in the situation where they actually pointed out that there's a difference between male and female product managers. Usually it's how you contribute to the cost, right? Like in my team, like in my own team, I have like one female product managers. We have like other team like payment and commerce. They have also, I think the composition is almost 50% there, female product managers. But I think this is again, I think in Indonesia, if you see the product school, like we have product school here. There are some product school here and there. It's an organic initiative, and most of the participants, more than 50%, are females. And that's never a problem, right?
Okay.
There's no sense of, I think usually people associate this with insecurities, right? But again, when you're building for a cost, then you understand that all that doesn't matter. I mean, you can be as tough, you can be as manly, you can be as feminine, but if you're not building for the user itself, then whatever that is doesn't matter. So first you have to understand that context, right? Everything's coming from you, doesn't really matter if you're not building for a cost. Second is, if you have that mindset, that can be a great filter to find a great talent, no matter the background, gender, cultural difference, religion, whatever. And then you start realizing, because even in the population, right? Population in Indonesia, we have a lot of females. I think it's the last data that I know, 2012, more than 50%. So naturally, should have like 50-50 because that's how the population works, right?
Yeah.
So if you use that filter, you set people based on how they see users, then naturally you attract 50% of your team member is females. And one thing that also I think start becoming apparent nowadays, you see like other big tech players like Tokopedia, Traveloka, they have a lot of great female product managers, right?
Yes.
And they actually when there are still a few of them, I think what went great is because there's few of them, so when one of them becomes speaker in a public event, it actually showing to the other talents or the students out there that it doesn't matter what your gender is. I can be a product manager, I can be a data analyst, I can be like, this is an open new industry for everyone. I mean, Indonesia, Malaysia were quite similar, right? There are some old traditional industry that portrays the male profiles differently, but tech is different. Are you familiar with Crystal Wijaya? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the name.
Yeah, the data scientist from Gojek. I think she plays a big role in showing that female can have a great contribution to the cause. And we actually like the product team, the data team in BukuWarung, we have like several session with Crystal, and then she actually told us that there are tons of extremely talented data analysts, product managers that are female in the region, and they have no problem. They have no problem, finding place to work, contributing to the work, navigating through this career path and everything. So I think it's happening. I don't see it as a severe problem for this tech industry.
Yep.
And it's getting better and better. And I've never heard once that people are insecure because of this happening. At least when your company building for a great cause and you value that over anything else, then it should be fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know this is definitely a much longer session than what we usually have. So, thank you especially to Mario for really
sorry for hijacking this.
No. I think it's fantastic. Like we say, right? This show is all about really having real conversations, and I really appreciate the honesty and the candidness. Again, perhaps one day I should get you back, and hopefully by then we can get Chinmay as well. I really want to dive a bit more, but but for now,
let him know.
Yes, let him know. Tell him I'm still waiting for his reply. He replied me once and then said no later on, and then after that, but I know he's famous now. So anyway, the last segment is basically where I always ask the guests, why don't you let our listeners know what's your musical taste or what you want to recommend? And you recommended I'm not gonna introduce it. I think I'll let you introduce it. What song, who's the artist, and why did you choose this song?
Okay, it's quite obscure. I know why you don't want to introduce because it's obscure, right? Maybe you try to find out about this and no information.
No, it's because I feel like when the guest says it, it's more fun. I did do my homework on who he is and things like that. But yeah, it's always more fun when you say it because you know them better, right? So yeah.
Okay, so this is actually on top of my pandemic playlist, right? The music you listen during the pandemic is like, for me personally, it's different compared to like the normal world situation, right? So for me, it's very difficult to find that right song that strike the right balance of energizing, give you motivation, help you focus, and soothing at the same time, right? And I remember, I mean, for me, I'm a big gamer myself. Nintendo Switch is my choice
console
of
platform
during this pandemic time, and this is where I discover a lot of like great indie games, right? And there are some games, whenever I play the game, like the music is like very calming. I decided not to play the games. I put the console down and just listen to the music.
Okay.
So I'm playing this one award-winning indie game called Hyper Drifter. And the music they have in the game is like so soothing. It makes me obsessed, and I try to find out who's the composer and everything. And then I found this guy. He called himself like his artist name is Disasterpeace.
Yes.
So he already composed more than 50 tracks for 50 different games. He actually also created an original album himself. And in the Hyper-Light Drifter, there's this one track called Panacea, right? Which is, I think you guys will, I think Colin will share the link somewhere in this video.
Correct.
So for me, it's helped me, like, for me, it's energizing, give me the right motivation and soothing at the same time. So this is the first music I listen when I wake up and the last music I listen before I go to sleep. And then I try to find out what Panacea means, right? Because the music title called Panacea. And it turns out like Panacea means cures for all.
Yes,
right?
a solution.
Yes, a solution for all.
Yes.
So I don't know, like this guy is extremely genius. He can create this tune, like a simple tune with like piano and some ambient sound, and it's actually cures for all. So I really recommend like all you guys, especially the product managers out there. I guarantee you 100% this will help you focus. This will calms you down. This will also motivate you to continue working during this tough time.
Wow, very nice. Thank you so much, Mario. All right, the link is going to be here, I think, or here. I don't know. Again, like I said, I always get this wrong. Okay, so last question, I guess. I've said it like 3 times now, so I'm a big liar. But yeah, as we end the show, do you have anything that you want to leave with our viewers and our listeners? And it could be anything, but I always like to give our guests, the something to leave.
So okay, for all the viewers, especially the product managers out there, I really appreciate all of you guys. I mean, we've all been working in very difficult and tough times with all this pandemic. All this will end soon. I'm 100% sure about that. But be ready, right? Because the post-pandemic time, a lot of things will change, right? Lifestyle will change, the needs, like telemedicine is like booming, and then product like air purifier, which is now like sold out everywhere. So a pro tip for you guys, think about that future, right? Anticipate that future and start preparing and building products with it. Like any product, whatever solution you're working right now, whether you're working at big tech companies or you're starting your own startup, just have that small piece in your mind that there's always this added elements of healthiness, safety, calming down, mental health. Onwards.
Sorry, you cut out at the last sentence. I think the connection just dropped for a bit. So
okay.
Just the last sentence. Yeah.
Yes. All those things, right? Which is safety, healthy, mental health, the feeling of togetherness, right? Going back to the normal world will be the theme for 2022 onwards. So prepare for that. Add that element to your product. Think about that. Create some new solution for it, and then you'll do fine. But I really appreciate like everyone here who's still working and building in this tough time.
Nice. Thank you so much, Mario. So everyone, that was Mario Nicolas, the head of product at BukuWarung. And I want to end the session today by actually quoting what I wrote more than a year ago when we were actually going into this pandemic, when we realized that this was a lot more serious. And the reason why I'm doing this is also because I think in Southeast Asia, we are seeing a rise again. The Delta variant is coming back. And I know that a lot of people are struggling. But I also think that, especially for us, if you're listening, you're a product manager, you've got a job, I think we have much to be thankful for. And I thought it would be good to just share this as we close, right? So what I wrote more than a year ago when we first went into lockdown, this is what I said, right? It's hard to see the glass as half full when it seems like it's half empty. But if you're finding it hard to work from home, be thankful that you're able to work. If you're finding hard to work with your family around, be thankful that you are around them. If you're finding it hard because there have been cost-cutting measures, be thankful that you still have a job. And if you're finding it hard that you don't have a job, be thankful that you still have your health. So let's spare a thought, and really be thankful for what we have. I know it's tough. I know we're all struggling. But I think, that there are many other people who are in a lot worse states. So let's continue to hold on to that thankfulness of what we have. And I think in different countries in Southeast Asia, there are a lot of initiatives to help those who are in really, really terrible states. I would highly recommend that you find somewhere where you can help, whether it's through giving of what little that you have in monetary terms, or even volunteering, because I think this is what's going to take us all out as a society back into the new normal. Thank you all so much for being for listening and watching this show. Again, thank you to Mario. Great guest. It was one of the most candid episodes that we have. And yeah, I look forward to having more and more shows and much greater guests as well from the Southeast Asia region. Thank you and bye-bye.